right. We'll give the other stream just a second here to get caught up. Should be going live here any second. And I think we should be okay now. Should be live. Should be streaming on both platforms now. We'll be going over the market. Impressive move up in the market. We'll see what that does to our market bias going into tomorrow. And then we'll also go over a couple of plays from today. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Good afternoon. This is Ifan from the Strategic Day Trader, and this is your market wrap for September 15th, 2021. Qs up 0.74, SPY up 0.83, and IWM up 1% up, the most of the bunch. All right, so coming into today, we were bearish on the Qs and the SPY and the IWM, and what we needed to see in order to no longer be bearish would be to take out this pivot here to the left here. And you can see we've gotten very, very close. Qs have gotten up to it, and then IWM not quite there yet, okay? What I would like to see to kind of complete this transition is to see us try to go lower in the morning, break underneath one of these hourly bars, and then we'll be able to kind of have a lower reference point here for when we switch back to a bullish bias. Okay. Now, why do we get to switch back to a bullish bias? And it's going to be because of the larger time frames. And that's why, as we were discussing this pullback here, right, the expectation was always short term. And then we just follow the hourly until the hourly is no longer in a downtrend. Right, I wasn't talking about, okay, the market is topped out, you know, the top is in, we're going to fall apart, long-term tops, right? That was never the discussion. It was, we have a hourly downtrend. We'll see how much this wants to pull back. We even talked about how in the past, the SPY, when it breaks below the 20 here, has been buyable opportunities, okay? And it seems like the SPY is trying to make its way back up just as it has the last few times. Okay, and that's because the larger time frames, the daily, the weekly, the monthly, are all in these power trends, right? So they've all been just grinding higher on the larger time frames. And so that's why, you know, we weren't talking about, you know, market's going to crash or the top is in or anything. It was, we have a short-term bearish bias, and we made that distinction, even short-term bearish bias, but the long-term still remains bullish. Okay? So the reason that I bring that up is just because it's important to kind of where we are now, right? Which is that all of the pullback that we're going to get? If it were going to continue the downtrend, we shouldn't have gotten 100% retracement right here, right? Downtrend should be lower lows and lower highs. We've gotten a bit of an equal high here now, back to this area where, you know, we expected it to at least test the 20 MA. We're going to see what happens from there. That did follow through. But now that we're back all the way up here, we're looking less bearish, okay? So ideally what I would like to see is us in the morning come in or even a small gap down. And then from there, we'll use today's high, which for the SPY is not going to be much different. For the Qs, again, not much different. And then for the IWM, a little bit more useful in bringing kind of that reference point down, okay? And then if we try to come in and then take that out, we can be back to bullish because this hourly downtrend will be over, we'll have broken, and we'll be transitioning back into an uptrend on the hourly. If we transition to an uptrend on the hourly, then we will have time frame alignment on the Qs and the SPY and the IWM as well. Okay, that will kind of provide the higher low. Okay, so that's kind of the usefulness of the time frames, right? When we're looking at the hourly time frame, we're trying to predict the next hours and days. When we're looking at the daily time frame, we're trying to predict the next days and weeks. And we're weekly, weeks and months, and so on and so forth, right? So that's why, you know, we know that with the Qs and the SPY, they're just all out bullish on this uptrend here. We haven't gotten any kind of blow off top or anything like that. So, you know, the expectation was, let's see what this pullback ends up looking like. Okay, and so far, given today's, you know, maybe that's going to be it. Okay, so now what if we just gap up tomorrow and then we go, then the next pullback, right? So, you know, say we gap up tomorrow I would still not be all out bullish if we gap up tomorrow, just because it's multiple bars up now into that gap up on this hourly. So I would still like to see us, even if we gap up, come in a little bit first. Be great if we break the low of an hourly bar, right? And then see what happens from there. But let's say we gap up and then just, go, then the next pullback. Or if we gap up and then we just base all day, then on then Thursday, Friday, whatever, maybe we'll get a breakout. And then that'll be the time to be bullish. Okay. All right. So that, I think, is the toughest scenario. If we just gap up and then hold, or gap up and go, that'll be the toughest scenario. The scenario that I think would be the easiest to anticipate and the easiest to kind of work with would be either we small gap down, or flat, and then we sell off initially at the open, and then we'll have this kind of pivot to work with. And that'll be nice because we'll have this double top, and then the negation of that double top will surely be bullish. Okay. All right. So in this transitional phase, as is often the case with, the time frames when they're in conflict, with the short term being going in a different direction than the long term, sometimes, these transitions get a little bit sloppy, and I feel like it's gotten kind of that way now. All right. So going over today's plays here, the YUMC gap down, clearing some support here. I like this YUMC quite a bit. One of the favorite gap ups. I think TBPH was the other, or one of the favorite gap downs. TBPH the other gap down that I was watching, but this was the favorite. I gave you numbers on this YUMC right here on this base breakdown. Actually wasn't able to get it there. Kind of just went too fast on that initial break. So I did miss it. So gave you the numbers. I'm not sure if anybody really caught it because it did go fast, but I did give you the numbers ahead of time. So what I ended up doing was playing it as a 2-minute sell setup right here. I kind of, when I got in it, I thought it was a little bit kind of not that wise, or just maybe a little bit overdoing it, because look, I'm getting in, I think I got filled like 64, right? And then I think 50, then that means 54 was the low, 53. Yeah, not that much different, right? Just 10 cents on something that was requiring like a 60-cent stop anyway, 70 cents. So I probably should have just waited for low of the day there and just got this whole thing here. So once I kind of realized that, I got a little bit worried about it. So, and I did something, I don't usually do this. I decided to just exit half if it broke above here. Because I thought, well, we got the breakout failure already. It should just go. And so because it didn't want to go, I put half, I lowered half the stop to here, and it shook me out. And then I had to add back the rest when it finally did break. So I add that half back in when it finally did break. So so I think, I mean, it would have been fine if I just kind of stuck with it. Once I realized that, I was like, oh, I could have just, might as well just wait the extra 10 cents to get in with a new low. That kind of made me want to get out of it. So, and then this YUMC, if you played it, it's a little bit jumpy and it doesn't really trade all that well. So it was okay. Was able to get half out here, and then the back half trailed over the hourly, which didn't really make much. So overall, the play was kind of small. And you can see that's because the daily, given where it opened, it actually didn't produce that wide range of a bar for this gap down. So that's kind of to be expected. I think overall, though, it was fine. Just, I thought that maybe the entry was a little bit aggressive. Might as well just give it the extra, room to trigger when it takes out the lows. Because, I mean, what are you really missing out on? 10 cents on a 70-cent stop is not going to make that much of a difference. So, but that was fine. The management was fine. Played it okay. The YY, speaking of things that were a little bit jumpy and did not trade all that well, but the YY really, really worked. I mentioned this YY breakdown. I believe it was off the 2-minute here. Now, it would have been a pretty big stop. It was $1.10, and then so depending on where you get filled, maybe ends up being like $1.20, because I saw like 25-cent spread on this. So nice kind of rounded top here, rolling over, breaking the 20 there on the YY, and really nice follow through. But I just didn't like the spread, and you can see what a move there on the YY. So little bit disappointing to not be in it, but because of the spread, because of the way it trades, decided to pass on it. And that, of course, worked much, much better than the YUMC. Okay. If you're in the room, we did a lot more scalping today, especially late morning, lunchtime, that around that time after kind of we've gone through the gaps and see what they want to do. So I thought that, today was pretty active in that regard, like the NGL, the SHIP, the IAG. Maybe that'll be more of what we get. I didn't think today's gaps list was all that good, but the level 2 plays were pretty active. So, that I think made up the majority of today's trades. Okay. All right. That's going to do it for today's market wrap. Hope you did well today. We'll be back at it tomorrow, and I will talk to you then. Have a good evening.